only 25th Amendment his ass.
The problem is to get the 25th Amendment's harder than impeachment. You have to get 2/3 of the House and 2/3 of the Senate.
So what do we do?
Tackle Trump and let him pretend he's president and publicly report that he's going through a health issue and Vance take over. It literally needs to be something like that. It's that bad.
So Tucker Carlson just absolutely went off on President Trump in a 2-hour video, but it's about a 5-minute stretch of this 2-hour video that particularly went viral, where Tucker Carlson would ask what I believe to be one of the most important questions I've ever heard anyone say, particularly about Trump and his inauguration. Take a listen.
Who do you think you are? You're tweeting out the F word on Easter morning? You'll be living in hell. Just watch. Praise be to Allah. So obviously you're mocking the religion of Iran. Okay, if you seek a religious war, that's a good idea. But by the way, no decent person mocks other people's religions. You may have a problem with the theology, presumably you do if it's not your religion, and you can explain what that is. But to mock other people's faith is to mock the idea of faith itself, and we should never mock that, because at its core is the acknowledgement that we are not in charge of the universe. We did not build it. We won't be here at the end of it. We can destroy life. We cannot create it because we are not God. The message of all faith at the biggest picture level is the message in our Bible, which is you are not God. And only if you think you are do you talk this way. But it's not just mockery of Islam. And no president should mock Islam. That's not your job. This is not a theocracy. We don't go to war with other theocracies to find out which theocracy is more effective. We are not a theocracy. And God willing, we never will be, because theocracies corrupt the religion. No. This is a mockery not just of Islam, it's a mockery of Christianity. To send out a tweet with the F word on Easter morning promising the murder of civilians and then saying praise be to Allah without explaining any of it, you are mocking me and every other Christian because we're Christians. We can't support that. That is evil. That is an intentional desecration of beauty and truth, which is the definition of evil. Maybe some did, but certainly the leaders of the American Christian churches, by and large, said absolutely nothing. And maybe because they said nothing, this accelerated. These are the same people who sort of didn't notice somehow that on Inauguration Day, the president did not take his oath of office with his hand on the Bible. His wife stood next to him holding it. I was about 15 feet away and saw it, but he did not put his hand on the Bible. And that should have been maybe a clue that we need to pause and think about, what is this? Why wouldn't you put your hand on the Bible? If you don't believe in the Bible, you think it's just a book, there's no cost to you to putting your hand on it, just kind of following the protocol, going along with the tradition. All presidents do it. Why aren't you doing it? And you're not doing it intentionally. You're choosing not to put your hand on the Bible when you take that oath. That suggests not that you don't believe it's real, because if you didn't believe it was real, why would you care? You'd put on the costume and take it off. It doesn't matter. That suggests you know it is real and you're rejecting it intentionally. You know what you're doing and you're doing it anyway. But nobody asked questions about that either. It seemed kind of inappropriate, given the celebration then in progress, to ask, why wouldn't you put your hand on the Bible when you take the oath of office to lead our nation? But pretty much nobody did. I didn't. I'll admit that. I saw it and didn't say one word. Bothered me ever since. But right around January 4th, it became clear that maybe he didn't put his hand on the Bible because he affirmatively rejects what's inside that book. And what's inside that book are limits on human behavior. Because if there's one theme that spans all 66 books in the Christian Bible, it's that you are not God and you cannot assume his powers because you don't have them. You may convince yourself you have them. You may want them. You may have been promised them, but in the end, they're not yours and you'll never have them. And you can only destroy yourself and the people around you by pretending that you do. That is the consistent message that spans from Genesis to Revelation. And people who ignore that law are punished, just like people who ignore gravity or freezing temperatures are punished, because these are laws that were not created by people. They supersede people. But on January 4th, when the President of the United States told us he was stealing, that our country was stealing something that didn't belong to us, people should have piped up and said something, but they didn't. And that got us all the way to yesterday, which was Easter Sunday.
Why would Donald Trump refuse to touch the Bible during his inauguration? Why would Donald Trump refuse to profess if he's a Christian or not? Well, I mean, it's the same reason that we've been stating on this channel for the past 4 years, and it's because Donald Trump is the dark magician. Donald Trump was selected over 40 years ago to be the quote-unquote president of chaos, to lead the country into chaos. And he is doing exactly what he was selected to do. We've looked at the Illuminati card games that literally spoke to this and told us exactly who Donald Trump was well before he got here. Just a couple of days ago, we covered the quote-unquote Trump Easter tweet and how I believe it perfectly aligns with the Great Reset, and how Donald Trump is holding up his end of the bargain and he is leading the country towards the end, as empires typically last about 250 years. Well, Donald Trump did not stop there. He's at it again. He says a whole civilization will die tonight, never to be brought back again. I don't want that to happen, but it probably will. However, now that we have complete and total regime change, where different, smarter, and less radicalized minds prevail, maybe something revolutionarily wonderful can happen. Who knows? We will find out tonight. One of the most important moments in the long and complex history of the world. 47 years of extortion, corruption, and death will finally end. God bless the great people of Iran. That was put out today from our president. But of course, on this channel, we already know the answer to these questions, right? When you simply look at Trump's lineage, his family lineage, his bloodline, the people that he's related to, right? It will make perfect sense why Trump would not place his hand on the Bible. It's because Trump is not a Christian. Keep in mind, this is the same president who said that he believes that he's not going to heaven because of the things that he's done and will do in this world. What does that mean? How do anybody that identifies as MAGA, Christian, as a supporter of Trump, hear a president say something like that and continue to support this person and not expose him? But just so people can fully understand who Donald Trump is, the people that are around Trump, and how we got here, let me give you a little bit of a history lesson if you're new to the channel and you haven't seen all the things that we've collectively gathered about Donald Trump that they typically don't tell you about. Because the truth is, many of us was hoodwinked into believing that Donald Trump was going to save the country from the left. He was the quote-unquote Messiah, the savior, when we all know that that's blasphemous. So let's back up a little bit and let's show the people who Donald Trump really is. And I would highly encourage you to watch this video all the way through. It is very important for you to get the full grasp of it. Oh yeah, Diddy got a podcast. So if you're one of those people that has found themselves to be confused, upset, angry, trying to make sense of the behavior from President Trump as it pertains to the Epstein files, the client list, or maybe you're somebody who expected this from Trump all along. Whatever category you fall into, all I ask from you is to just watch this video to the end, because I think I'm going to do a halfway decent job of not only driving home the point that not only that Donald Trump is controlled, but everything that Donald Trump is doing right now, that includes purposefully upsetting his base, upsetting Democrats, upsetting people who fall in the middle as independents such as myself, upsetting everybody as it pertains to the Epstein files. All of it is on purpose. And he's not going to stop doing it. He's going to only continue to do it because the goal is to lose the midterms so that they can continue to take the country in a particular direction towards a new world order. And I understand, I know that word has lost its meaning because a lot of people have attached it to conspiracy theories, but I need you to hear me out. We're going to connect a lot of dots in this video, and I just want you to decide at the end if you believe it or not. If you want the uncensored version of this video and access to multiple other videos you cannot find here on YouTube, please consider becoming a member of the Patreon. Link is in the description. On July 16th, 2025, Donald Trump took to Truth Social, his platform, and said the following: the radical left Democrats have hit pay dirt again, just like with the fake and fully discredited Steele dossier, the lying 51 intelligence agents, the laptop from hell, which the Dems swore had came from Russia. No, it came from Hunter Biden's bathroom, and even the Russia scam itself, a totally fake and made up story used in order to hide crooked Hillary Clinton's big loss in the 2016 presidential election. These scams and hoaxes are all the Democrats are good at. It's all they have. They are no good at governing, no good at policy, and no good at picking winning candidates. Also, unlike Republicans, they stick together like glue. Their new scam is what we will forever call the Jeffrey Epstein hoax. And my past supporters have bought into this BS, hook, line, and sinker. They haven't learned their lesson and probably never will, even after being conned by the lunatic left for 8 long years. I've had more success in 6 months than perhaps any president in our country's history, and all these people want to talk about with strong prodding by the fake news and the success-starved Dems is the Jeffrey Epstein hoax. Let these weaklings continue forward and do the Democrats' work. Don't even think about talking of our incredible and unprecedented success because I don't want their support anymore. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Make America great again. Well, if you all remember, just a few days ago, I dropped a documentary covering Martin Luther King. And in that documentary, we covered something called the Hegelian dialectic tactic. And for those of you who don't know, the Hegelian dialectic tactic essentially means, in so many words, if there's something that you want to achieve, but you don't know if the general masses will accept said outcome, then you have to create the problem yourself and also create the solution yourself in order to get said goal accomplished. And in the Martin Luther King documentary, we talked about this white couple named Carl and Ann Braden. And what this white couple did was that they bought a house in a whites only neighborhood for a black couple. This black couple was trying to buy the house, but they weren't able to get it because it was only for whites. Well, this Braden couple ended up buying this house for this black family. And within just days of being in this house, this black couple's home would be set on fire. Well, long story short, Carl Braden ended up getting arrested and accused by the police of sedition and participating in communist behaviors and tactics by way of setting flame to these people's house that they bought for them as a means to cause a riot and claim that racism was at an all-time high to then get further legislation passed. So America had this racist history. They fed into the racist history, bought a house, set the house on fire themselves so that they can get legislation passed. No different from what the Trump administration was doing just a few weeks ago with the LA riots. If you want to check that out, I had an incredible video covering that situation as well. So please check that out when you get a chance. Well, this situation right here with Trump is no different. Everything that Trump is doing is done intentionally. Before we go any further, I just ask if you can please hit that like button so this video can reach more people like yourself. I would really appreciate it. But before we go any further, let's go in chronological order to drive this point home so you all can see what Trump and the administration, but not just Trump and the Republicans, but how the Democrats played along as well. Let's look at the timeline here. Epstein died under Trump in 2019. Ghislaine Maxwell was put in prison in 2020 for connection to Epstein's crimes. Biden gets elected in 2021 and the entire administration refuses to release the Epstein list. In fact, they don't even talk about it at all. And then Trump campaigns in 2024 for presidency with his administration to release the Epstein list as a priority. It wasn't a top priority, but it was definitely something that he talked about in multiple interviews and podcasts. And then there was the Trump assassination attempt that I really want to talk about. Let's just spend a little bit of time just real fast talking about the Trump assassination attempt. The moment that this attempt, and specifically the one that happened in, I believe it was Butler, Pennsylvania. Let's talk about that attempt, which I 100% believe was staged. This does not matter if you agree with Trump, if you voted for Trump, if you hate the left. We can agree that the left became too radical. We all on the same page with that. What we're talking about is how they used this quote-unquote assassination attempt to garner sympathy and to get the people to rally behind Trump, and it worked seamlessly despite the incredibly bad acting and all the red flags surrounding this quote-unquote assassination attempt. In fact, there's a video that I just saw. I want you all to take a look at this video. Let me go ahead and play it here first.
The president's been shot. Oh, no. Either that or they're covering. We don't know. Either that or they're covering him. We love you. We love you, President Trump. We love you, President Trump. We love you. Yes, yes, yes. President Trump. No. Oh, no shot.
All right, you seen that, you heard that. Now I'm going to explain to you all the red flags in this video. The first red flag is that you notice that the photographers, this man right here in the suit, it went to get the photographers. Then he brought the photographers back. They're not, like, if Trump truly just got shot, wouldn't you want to get down and stay down and not put your life on the line? Aren't you afraid that your brains could be splattered all over the ground at any moment? Your job is to take photos, yes, but that does not come before your life. Furthermore, they knew exactly where to go. Trump, which I've been complaining about this since the day of, pumps his fist into the air. You do not know if the shooter is still active. You do not know if there are multiple shooters. It made no sense to do this. Probably the biggest red flag from this video is look at the top of the screen here. All of a sudden, perfectly timed is the American flag dropping down into scenery so that these photographers can get this perfect shot of Donald Trump. How did they do this seamlessly like this? How? And in my opinion, it doesn't even look like they're quote unquote protecting Trump. It almost looks like they're just hovering over him where we can't get a good look at him, so to speak. And I know that probably sounds contradictory, but the point that I'm making is it doesn't seem as if they're concerned about his life, but almost as if they're hiding him so that he can do something. It's just my personal opinion with that one. Because if you're really trying to protect his life, I would imagine you'd get him down, keep him down until you get word that the shooter has been taken out. And when you compare this to the JFK assassination, when you compare this to the Reagan assassination attempt, it's just completely different, bro. Those were complete mayhems. This Trump assassination attempt was completely different. Not to mention all the red flags that I'm not going to say, I'm just going to put it on the screen. I went back and forth with somebody the other day on my channel about this. So that this video isn't too long, I'm going to just put it on the screen. All the red flags surrounding it. Especially the fact that CNN didn't cover like the last 80 plus, 70 plus, 80 plus Trump campaign rallies. This was the one they not only covered, but showed up to, had photographers there as if they knew something was going to happen. And keep that in mind because that's going to be relevant for later in the video. Okay, again, I'm going to be all over the place here, but let me try to connect some dots here. So here we are in 2025. The Trump administration has went from telling us that there's a list, telling us that there's files, telling us that there's a phase 1 of the files, and now all of a sudden there's nothing else to see here. It was all a hoax, but no, it was created by the Democrats, but they also put Bill Clinton in the files. It's complete confusion. And my biggest thing is, if Trump and the administration think that Trump is in the files, or they think that something is wrong with the files, or it's bad for somebody somewhere that's affiliated with them, then why at any point in time before these people joined your administration, or since they joined your administration, that being Pam Bundy in particular, why would you not inform her to not lead people on? Why? Unless she's supposed to have done that. Unless there's supposed to be confusion. In my Martin Luther King documentary, I talked about the fact that Martin Luther King 100% had handlers. In my opinion, everything in this video is alleged. In my opinion, he had handlers. And one of his handlers was this Jewish businessman who is actually one of the main characters that's behind the I Have a Dream speech. Martin Luther King did not write that speech himself. Someone else did. And just like he had this Jewish businessman handler, so does Trump. Because in one of his videos, where once again he's shaming his own base for wanting the Epstein files, take a listen to what Trump had to say.
Curious, why do you think your supporters in particular have been so interested in the Epstein story and so upset about how it's been handled?
I don't understand why they would be so interested. He's dead for a long time. He was never a big factor in terms of life. I don't understand what the interest or what the fascination is. I really don't. And the credible information's been given. Don't forget, we went through years of the Mueller witch hunt and all of the different things, the Steele dossier, which was all fake. All that information was fake. But I don't understand why the Jeffrey Epstein case would be of interest to anybody. It's pretty boring stuff. It's sordid, but it's boring. And I don't understand why it keeps going. I think really only pretty bad people, including fake news, want to keep something like that going. But credible information, let them give it. Anything that's credible, I would say, let them have it.
Well, I'm not so concerned. I'm not as much concerned about what Trump said in this video because we've already been hearing him say this often. I'm more interested in the person he's standing beside. This person right here, it's funny how the answer can be right there in our face sometimes. This guy right here is a Jewish businessman named Howard Lutnick, who is the CEO of something called the Cantor Fitzgerald, and is a very interesting character to say the least, because not only was he the neighbor of Jeffrey Epstein, which a lot of people don't even know who this guy is, let alone that he was a neighbor of Jeffrey Epstein. But things get a little bit more interesting when you delve into his history, because this guy is also tied to 9/11. Because on this day, Howard was scheduled to be at the company's offices in the North Tower on September 2001, but overslept and missed his usual morning flight from Newark to LaGuardia, which is very convenient. His absence likely saved his life, as Cantor Fitzgerald lost approximately 658 of its 960 employees who worked in the tower segment hit by Flight 11. Well, things get even more interesting when you look into this person, just like things got very interesting when you looked into the background and the people around Martin Luther King Jr. In 2019, Howard Lutnick will become business partners with a gentleman by the name of Larry Silverstein, who is the CEO and founder of the company Silverstein Properties. Why is this important? Because just 7 weeks before 9/11, Larry Silverstein signed a 99-year lease from the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey to operate the entire World Trade Center complex. So to put it into layman terms, this person, Larry Silverstein, took out insurance on the towers. But it gets worse. The specific insurance coverage that was taken out on the 20th, just 7 weeks before, keep that in mind, was $3.55 billion per occurrence. Silverstein later argued in court that the two planes hitting the were two separate occurrences, doubling the potential payout to $7.1 billion. Not only that, but the insurance type included coverage for terrorist attacks, which became the most controversial detail. In early 2001, terrorism insurance was not common for most properties because the 1993 WTC bombing did raise concerns, but insurers still saw large-scale terrorism as low probability. Policies typically didn't explicitly cover acts of war or terrorism, but Silverstein insisted on it, which seemed very specific and forward-thinking, especially given the short window before the attacks. He not only secured the $3.55 billion in coverage on a $3.2 billion lease, but then after 9/11, he collected $4.55 billion after court battles, more than the lease cost, making it appear like a financial win despite the tragedy. So is it a coincidence that Trump is seen in multiple photos and videos with this person, this random person who has this random connection to Jeffrey Epstein and to now standing right there behind him? And again, if you watch the Martin Luther King documentary, you'll understand how all these coincidences just keep stacking up with these insignificant people that stands around the people that we see speaking. Because again, I am under the belief that whenever we see these leaders and these people speaking, regardless of how confident and cocky they are, they're speaking on behalf of someone else's interest. They're speaking on behalf of their funders, their sponsors, and their handlers. Which reminds me, Ghislaine Maxwell, if you all remember, I'm going to take you back to 2019. When Jeffrey Epstein was arrested, Ghislaine Maxwell, a lot of you all don't remember, a lot of people was actually looking for Ghislaine Maxwell because they were like, well, if he's guilty, she's guilty too. She needs to be on trial too. So they were looking for Ghislaine Maxwell, and the New York Post, who seems to be the first people to get these exclusive drops, just like they got the exclusive drop when Jeffrey Epstein unalived himself, but we'll get to that. There's this photo that randomly got dropped by the New York Post of Ghislaine Maxwell just sitting there at this table and at one point even reading a book. Well, let me tell you why this is so weird. Because this same photo that you're looking at, just like they used metadata, they looked at the metadata for the Jeffrey Epstein jail footage that the Trump administration just gave us a couple of days ago. And the metadata said that it was not only not raw footage, but there was more than just a minute missing from this jail footage video that they gave to us. But this video was missing closer to 3 minutes. Well, the same thing goes for this Ghislaine Maxwell photo that we're looking at, because it turns out that it wasn't just a random civilian that was out and about and just looked like, oh, look, it's Ghislaine Maxwell randomly sitting outside this restaurant called In-N-Out. No, the Daily Mail looked into the metadata behind that photo to then only find out that not only was it not just a regular civilian that took this photo, but it traced back to this company that is owned by the attorney for the Maxwells. But not only that, in this photo, she's reading a book. And look at the name of this book. Do I need say more? But not only that, there was this sign on a billboard behind Ghislaine Maxwell that was promoting this movie. What is this movie about? Well, it will later come out and revealed that this photo was actually photoshopped, because this advertisement for this movie was never there. The owner of this billboard that advertises and promotes things came out and said there's nowhere in their records where it ever shows where they ever promoted this movie. So who placed it in this photo and why? And speaking of the jail footage by Jeffrey Epstein, I have so many questions with this Jeffrey Epstein situation that I'm to a point now, I don't believe that Jeffrey Epstein is dead. I don't. Because not only do they give us this trash footage, not only do we find out that it's not the raw footage, but then we're listening. There was a person who was once in that jail who did an interview that said that it's virtually impossible for anybody to commit suicide, not only because of how frequent the guards check the cells, but the way that they designed the beds and the jail cells all together. But it wasn't just anybody. It was Michael Francese, who is the former Columbia crime boss.
Okay, I'm joined now by someone, and this is interesting, with intimate knowledge of the very jail cell Epstein died in. Michael Francis, he was a capo for the Colombo crime family in the 1980s. He served time in the exact cell where Epstein was later held. Michael, welcome back to the program. Tell us about that cell, and what do you make of these revelations that there is a minute missing from the surveillance video, Michael?
Well, listen, I spent 7 months on that tier and in those cells. And the first thing I have to say, there's no way you are able to commit suicide. There's just no way. There's no way to hang yourself. There's nothing from the ceiling. There's nothing from the bed. You'd have to be a midget and work really hard to try to hang yourself. And I don't think you can accomplish it at that point. As far as the cameras being off, I haven't experienced that. I did 8 years in prison. And I haven't experienced cameras being broken in the perfect storm of correctional officers not walking those cells. They walk in and they look in on you all the time. As a matter of fact, sometimes it's embarrassing to go to the toilet because they're walking past you and looking in the cell constantly. So I've said this from day one. I do not believe it was suicide. I can't talk about what happened to him, but I don't believe it was a suicide because you just couldn't physically do it. It would be almost impossible to do it. So that's number one.
It must be interesting, Michael. When you look at the video, though, it must be interesting because you know the area. I mean, we all look at this and it just looks like a prison, but this must look very familiar to you.
Absolutely. Very familiar. And the fact that a minute is missing, look, everything around this guy.
You lived in that jail cell. And just real quick, again, tell me, would you have the privacy in that jail cell to take your own life?
Not only would you not have the privacy, I don't understand how you would be able to do it. You have to hang yourself from something. There's nothing on the ceiling that you can hang a bed sheet on. The bed is not that high. I mean, you have to try to lay down on the floor in some way because Jeffrey Epstein was a fairly big guy. You'd have to be a midget to even try to hang yourself. So it's not a question of not only are there cameras on are the COs walking the tier constantly, especially from what I understand, Jeffrey Epstein was on suicide watch for a while. They watch you very, very closely. Trust me on that. So I just can't buy it. I cannot buy it. I'm sorry. And I have no horse in this race other than my experience and the fact that I just couldn't see it happening.
Yeah.
And then we can't forget that Trump literally wished Ghislaine well.
Ghislaine Maxwell is in prison, and a lot of people want to know if she's going to turn in powerful people. And I know you've talked in the past about Prince Andrew, and you've criticized Bill Clinton's behavior. I'm wondering, do you feel that she's going to turn in powerful men? How do you see that working out?
I don't know. I haven't really been following it too much. I just wish her well, frankly. I've met her numerous times over the years, especially since I lived in Palm Beach, and I guess they lived in Palm Beach. But I wish her well.
Despite the list of crimes that this woman was convicted of, I'm going to remind everybody what she was convicted of a minor, conspiracy to entice minors to travel to engage in illegal acts, conspiracy to transport minors with the intent to engage in criminal activity, transporting a minor with intent to engage in criminal activity, conspiracy to commit of minors. That would be like me pow-powing Trump's entire family, and then he used to be friends with me. He knows what I've done, and then he's in a news conference and he just says, "I wish Didi well." He wouldn't say that. Why would you say that a person who's being charged, let alone convicted of these sorts of crimes, why would you say, I wish her well? Not to mention they also just fired former FBI Director James Comey's daughter, who prosecuted Jeffrey Epstein, and Ghislaine Maxwell, and not to mention Diddy. Which I got another question, just real quick about Jeffrey Epstein. Not only do I not believe that Jeffrey Epstein I believe he's still alive, but I'm going to step further. Remember how they told us that Jeffrey Epstein taught at the Dalton School, despite having no experience, no history, no credentials? He just started teaching at this prestigious Dalton School. Well, look at this photo right here, right? Jeffrey Epstein is what it says, but I want y'all to look behind him. Why is his name misspelled? No, really. Why is his name misspelled? That makes no sense to me. He was teaching, it is said that he was teaching 11th and 12th graders, juniors and seniors at one of the most prestigious schools in New York. Why would his name be misspelled? The students didn't do it. Why would he do it? Look right under his name. It's a butterfly. Why is there a random butterfly on his board? I just feel like, just like the Ghislaine Maxwell photo that has been 100% proven to be photoshopped and taken by her own attorney, and they lied as if it was taken by a civilian who just randomly saw Ghislaine Maxwell, I feel like they put things right in our face. The butterfly, we know butterfly is 100% associated with MK Ultra. That's long been documented. We've seen several celebrities use the butterfly in their music videos, their photo shoots. SZA is the immediate one that comes to mind. Rihanna is a big one that comes to mind. But I'm not the only one that caught this. This lady by the name of Juliette Rose Bryant, a former still a victim of Jeffrey Epstein. She's been to the island. She just did an interview with Blair White. If you all would like to see me cover the interview, I can do that, or I can just direct you directly there. That's up to you all if you all want to see me cover that. But I was on her Twitter page, and she literally talked about this and pointed this out as well and said, why do Jeffrey Epstein has this infatuation with butterflies?
I would like to know more about Epstein's Butterfly Trust, started in 2013 to pay off victims and accomplices. I was kidnapped by Jeffrey Epstein in 2002. I met him when he was in Africa with Bill Clinton and Kevin Spacey. This is my diary from 2002. I made it in January. I met them in September. Why did Epstein start the Butterfly Trust? Also, Sarah Ransom, another victim, has a blue butterfly tattooed on her arm. Virginia Giffer, another victim, uses a blue butterfly as her Twitter logo. What does the blue butterfly mean? And why did Epstein start the Butterfly Trust? What is this trust? When I was taken to New Mexico, I woke up in a laboratory. Epstein gave me a pelvic exam before I was sent home. Were they taking our eggs? Virginia Giffer said that they wanted to take a baby from her.
Your baby, but it would really be our baby, and we would have you sign a document that says.
Clonade, very nearby in the Bahamas, made the first baby Eve in 2002.
Not to mention that she talked about in her interview with Blair White, a moment in which she remembers when she was on the island, doctors and things of that sort working on her, or her being hooked up to this machine, which are all the signs of MK Ultra, which we talked about before with Ali Carter and other alleged victims. And one of the last thing I want to end this video with is MAGA. Once again, it's right in our face. What does the term MAGA, when people think of MAGA, they think of Trump, even though the term existed before him and it was associated with another president before Trump. That's what people modern day think about. They're associated with Trump. Make America great again. But what does MAGA, the term MAGA, mean? When you look up the term MAGA, it actually means, in Spanish, it literally means female magician, sorceress, or witch. In Latin, it means sorcerer, magician, or wise person. In Greek, it has evolved over time to now mean magician or sorcerer. And this woman by the name of Marina Abramovich, who we've talked about multiple times on this channel before, she's worked with Jay-Z and other celebrities. She's a high-level witch or supposed high-level witch. I definitely believe that about her. We talked about it before. She has some very interesting things to say about Trump and the purpose of Trump and why he's quote-unquote good for America. Take a listen.
One really funny opinion, but there is in Lapland there is a group of the shamans there who do something called collective dreaming. They will go together in seclusion and do the rituals with eating very little food and being in a solitude for a long time, and they will go and dream the dreams. And the dream have to be collective, same dream. So coming out of this dream, once the shaman told me that actually the best thing happened in this planet right now is the Trump to be the president. I said, how is this possible? It's the best thing to happen. He said, yes, because he's so irrational, he's so crazy. That's actually create that awakening, that we finally wake up. Because before it will be another guy and everything looks similar. But he's so different than anything else. So he's the magician who waking us up.
Trump is the best thing happened ever to us. That he is the magician of the highest order. That he is there in his irrational mind to create confusion in order that the human being can find new order. And you know it's not so stupid thinking about this in that way. It's completely turning things upside down. Because since Trump is around, things are changing. Because we are waking up.
So think of it in this horrible period, this horrible, dark period where this monster came and worked its horrible, horrible spell over the world.
All these connections with Trump, and there's a lot more, but this video will be 2 hours long, and I would really have to just slow down, not be all over the place, go in chronological order, break everything down piece by piece to connect all the dots with Trump. But Trump, there's never been a president, let alone a person running for president, that's had more pictures with Epstein, that's been more connected with Epstein. Epstein himself said that he was best friends with Donald Trump for like 10 years. Jeffrey Epstein's brother, we talked about this on Patreon, said himself that his brother Jeffrey Epstein told him that if he shared what he knew about both Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton during the 2016 election, that they would have to cancel the election because he has dirt on both of them. What could he be talking about? And now we're finding out that there are multiple people around Trump associated and affiliated with Trump, either directly or indirectly, that personally knew Jeffrey Epstein. To me, that all points to the fact that this is orchestrated, bro. This is orchestrated. They're trying to upset the base. They're trying to upset all the American people, regardless of where you fall at politically, so that they can have the state or the state of the country in a particular way so that they can then issue in a quote-unquote solution. That's my opinion. I love to know what you all think. I think they've done a great job of rallying people behind Trump, and now we're in the stage where they have to turn the country on Trump, and Trump knows it. He's a part of it. But that's just my opinion. Y'all in the comment section, give me your thoughts. Let me know what you think. I'm Demetrius. I go by Didi. That's all for this one. Peace. Oh yeah, Didi got a podcast.